What is the dumbest thing you've ever heard someone say? Got a couple from my days working in tourism in Hawaii. One of my favorites was, what's the difference between your mushroom and Swiss burger and your bacon guacamole burger? Next one, for context for those that don't know Maui, you can see two different islands from multiple vantage points on the island. Anyway, we had stopped at a lookout for some tourists to take a picture and a guy being completely serious asked, "So which one is Japan?" I was like, "Japan is about 3 miles to the northwest. If you can see it, you have superpowers, sir." Many years ago I had a short stint as a used car salesman. I overheard a fellow salesperson talking with a customer about a used truck he was looking at. The truck was 1 year old and had 15 miles on it. The customer told him, "This is way too much money for this truck, I can get this year's model brand new for $2,000 less." My fellow salesman fired back, "Sure, but think of how much a new vehicle depreciates as soon as you drive it off the lot. Within a year or two, this truck will actually be worth more." He did not make that sale. Here's the whole conversation, occurred at a table in university cafeteria at lunch. Person 1, apropos of nothing, plants only eat other plants. Persons 2-5 stopped their conversations and turned to P1. P1, more emphatically, plants only eat other plants. P2, what? P1, you know, like the Venus flytrap makes alligator chomping motion with hands. P2-5 glance around confused. P1, but it's not from Venus, it's from China. Not a single thing out of P1's mouth there was correct. We were closing down the Bed Bath & Beyond I worked at, and we moved all the non-functional displays of the kitchen appliances off to an empty corner, roped it off and put up signs that said displays do not work. Every single day, multiple times, we would find someone that had gone under the ropes over in that far off corner looking at them, and when we went to run them off they would ask what it means displays do not work. 5th grade, I had a presentation to give about spiders. At the end, during the question period, one of my classmates asked, if you were trapped in a room with like 1,000,000 spiders and you couldn't do anything, what would you do? This is one of the only things that's ever stuck with me for almost my entire life. Absolute dumbest thing I've ever heard. Nothing. Obviously I would do nothing, Jennifer, you imbecile. I was taking an anatomy physiology class. We had just finished the unit about skin, in which we thoroughly discussed melanin and albinism. We had even already taken the end of unit quiz, complete with question about how albino skin happens. The next week in class, the instructor said the word albino and one girl's hand shot up to ask, I don't mean to sound racist, but like, where do they come from? Years ago, I found myself watching MTV Street Smarts with a man I had recently met. The question asked on the show was to put these events in chronological order from oldest to most recent. The events were Civil War, Man on the Moon, Ice Age. I laughed, I joked what a ridiculous question it was. He didn't seem the least amused, so I asked him, you know this, right? He replied, I'm not good with dates. A state legislature was debating about reciprocity for concealed gun permits with the state adjacent to theirs. One of the legislators was against it, saying, we will know when criminals cross into our state with the intent to commit crimes. Geez, what process do you have now? Do criminals have to log into a website when they enter? Call an 800 number? Register at the closest police station? Power in our office went out. I could see that it was only our office. Other offices in the building were not impacted. I went to find the maintenance man. Found him. Told him. He had turned it off and was headed to your office to let you know. I was a bit stressed that day. I did not say you're not faster than the speed of light. I wanted to, but I thanked him nicely. Had a roommate once that was easily one of the dumbest dudes I've ever met. What's worse is that he thought he was a genius. When discussing the Keystone Pipeline and how the leaks were getting into the groundwater, he looked me dead in the eye and said, I really don't see what the big deal is, it's super easy to remove chemicals and oil from the groundwater anyway. This involves a conversation with a guy I used to work with who was trying to lose weight, so he was cutting down on pasta. Him, I've been doing pretty good, haven't had pasta in 2 weeks. Me, that's awesome, what's that you got in your hand there? Him, mac and cheese. Me, I thought you said you haven't had pasta in 2 weeks? Him, I haven't. This is mac and cheese. We did the best we could. My parents' response to why they abused me mentally and physically as a child. How is that your best? I can understand having 4 kids in a 7-year period is hard, especially if you don't have resources. But if you as a parent made no effort to reach out to resources, well then that's definitely not the best you could do. Fuck that nonsense. Somewhat recently a girl told me there is a conspiracy between Big Milk and Big Electric in the United States. That you don't actually have to refrigerated milk, but they tell us we have to so they can make more money on electric bills. I tried to explain what pasteurization was, but goddamn it's disturbing that she was just like, yay, this makes the most sense. Not the dumbest thing I ever heard, but what came to mind is this conversation I overheard at the supermarket not long ago. Man, the Irish butter is on sale. Woman, that's the kind my grandfather always gets. Man, what's the difference? Woman, I told you, it's the kind my grandfather gets. There were no further questions. In high school, we were each given a state to do a research project and then presentation on. My best friend was a typical blonde cheerleader, sweet as could be though. Her state was Massachusetts, and wouldn't you know, she thought it was pronounced Massachusetts, and did a 20-minute presentation about it. How long is a yardstick? I was working in a sign shop and taking an order from a school teacher who wanted us to make some little banners to put up next to different classrooms. I asked her how big she wanted them to be. She said she was looking at a yardstick hanging on the wall, and asked me how long that was. Found out my mom is a biblical literalist one day after watching that horrible Noah movie with Russell Crowe. She said it's really amazing how they fit all the animals on that boat. Obviously she's a creationist and evolution denier as well. So when she said all the animals, she meant all the animals. They can't just make laws then arrest you for not following them. It doesn't work that way. My stepmom's mom. She also said you can't just take a bunch of different people from different races, cultures, religions and backgrounds and stuff them all together and expect things to work out. Edit typo. A manager at my old job thought Alaska was an island next to Hawaii, because that's what it looks like on a map. Also asked me one day if you could get an STD from breathing the same air as someone with an STD. There were more, but I can't remember the rest. And this person was in charge. I was talking with a man from Pakistan and he asked me what my core beliefs were. I said my core beliefs were rooted in science and he responded with, oh science, so all you care about is plastic surgery, boob jobs. He took the entire field of science and labeled it as boob jobs. Used to work for two pretty prominent car rental agencies. On more than one occasion, people asked me, do I need a driver's license to rent a car? I will repeat the question back to them so they could hear it. Then answer, yes, you need a driver's license to rent a car. Someone asked my ethnic background, and I'm like 10 different nationalities, so I rattled them all off. Dude looks at me all smug, like he just caught me lying, and proclaims, you can't be more than two things, because you only have two parents. He was in his 30s. I was microwaving some food. I hit the one so it would automatically cook it off a minute. My friend asked, why did you put it in for a minute? I usually put mine in for 60 seconds. I had to explain to him that it's the same thing. We were in high school. Once heard my grandma say I don't understand why she doesn't like me. And then proceed to tell me I looked like a whore because I was wearing a tank top and a tiny bit of my bra was showing. I was 14 and had just come back from playing tennis. A friend of mine in college had absolutely no concept of money. She said her dad got $1 billion bonus one year. This was the 1980s and he was an engineer in aviation, so, no way. Even $1 million would be hard to believe in those days. Was on the bus headed to class in Honolulu. A southerner got on and asked the driver, do you all take American dollars? The driver pointed at the American flag sticker on the window and with extreme exasperation said, you're in America. Years ago a guy I worked with said, those people in Ireland must not be paying their taxes. The IRS keeps bombing their houses. That's not the IRS, it's the IRA, you idiot. That's what I meant, the IRA. The Internal Revenue Association. My ex, when we were still together, my old iPhone 8 Plus had a headphone jack. Me iPhones haven't had headphone jacks since the 7. Shows her article explaining. Her, well, mine did. I'll find it and prove it to you. She never did. A, it fires missiles that go as fast as the speed of light. B, you mean speed of sound? A, no, speed of light. B, don't be stupid, it's not that fast. The speed of light is twice as fast as the speed of sound. A.O. Boris Johnson is a communist. The greenhouse effect violates the second law of thermodynamics. Arguing with climate deniers is a goldmine of the dumbest things. Just when they thought they couldn't get dumber, they do. One of my employees once said that she hated daylight savings time because you lose an hour of sleep every night. It took an entire shift in drawing a chart to show her that you only lose an hour on the first night. People in England knew about the Queen's passing before we did Americans because of the time difference. Meaning that because of the time difference, English people are somehow 6 to 8 hours ahead in the future that the human brain stops developing at the year of 4 years old. Dude who was in his 40s said this to me years ago cause he was upset the law moved from 18 to 21 for cigarettes. Hope he's having a good day. That the Edmund Fitzgerald which sank in Lake Superior, US didn't actually sink due to a storm, but was sunk by the Koreans during the Korean War. A lot of big issues with that particular conspiracy theory. September 11, 2001. Media English class first period after the attacks, once we bomb them back, everything will just go back to normal. Still one of the most ignorant things I've heard to this day. Friend and his girlfriend were over watching some TV when an ad for an Anne Frank documentary comes on. GFO, wasn't she like Hitler's daughter or something? The room became very quiet for a while. That 16-year-olds should be allowed to drink and drive. They spent at least 10 minutes trying to legitimately defend this point to a room of adults. The individual making the point was in her late 20s. A friend that I hadn't seen in years showed up out of the blue. I looked at him and said, "Wow, you got bigger." He was round. Round? Anyway, the dumbest I've ever heard anyone say was me, and that I'm going to move out of the country if Hillary Clinton is president and moving to Hawaii. His friend says, "Dude, that's a state." Oh yeah, I was trying not to bust out laughing afterwards. I don't even remember his name and it's not worth remembering, but that politician who said if it's legitimate rape, the body has ways of shutting down a pregnancy or something like that. Someone in our group lost a flip-flop in a river, we watched it float downstream. Another person in our group said to be patient because it'll eventually do a full loop and come back.